everyone, Zack and Martin here. Before we get into the show proper, just wanted to say that, we've said this before and we'll say it again. With the assassination of Charlie Kirk yesterday, political commentator, that political violence in a free society is one of the most awful things. And, when you can't just talk and have a conversation and a discourse with one another, then this is what ensues. And it's happened far too often and too frequently. And, we, in our little capacity here, condemn it as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this comes on the heels of, as you say, it's been happening far too often. Back in June, there was a murder of a Minnesota legislator and her husband, and it's just been happening way too much. And political violence is the death of democracy, and so yeah, it must be condemned in all its forms.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, politics completely aside, but yeah, it's just, yeah, horrible no matter which side's doing it.
Yeah.
So with that, as you can tell from at least from my screen, there you go. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't. Okay, thought you just had a regular ass t-shirt on. Okay, glad you're
Yeah, no.
repping. Glad you're repping the Hawks. So we are doing football movies today, folks.
You got the cheese head and everything.
And yeah, as you can tell, I'm a diehard Bears fan. For the listening audience, I'm decked out in all Packer gear. So
Yeah, and I'm a Seahawks fan, and then in CFL, I'm a diehard Saskatchewan Roughriders fan. I would have probably worn Roughrider gear, except the only good Roughrider gear I have is like a hoodie, and so that's just way too hot for right now.
yeah.
So Seahawks, even though they let me down on Sunday, is what I'm
Yeah.
repping right now.
Meanwhile, Packers look like they're about to take the league by storm, and they play in about an hour as we record against the Commanders, and they made the NFC Championship last year, so we'll see. It's beating the Lions last week and facing the Commanders this week. It's quite the gauntlet, but the Packers can come out 2-0 and count them as some Super Bowl favorites. So you want to get us you have some little bit of industry news.
Yeah, so before we get into that, I mean, usually we talk about scripted stuff, but because we are talking about football today, we thought it'd be interesting to note that broadcast news, last week was the first ever YouTube. I don't know why I said it that way.
YouTube.
YouTube's first exclusive broadcast of an NFL football game, and it averaged more than 17 million global viewers. So quite good numbers for YouTube. And the traditional network broadcasters have got to be a little worried right now.
hmm Yeah, streaming just not affecting traditional studios. It's affecting everything from talk shows to sports. So it's yeah,
Yeah,
everything is changing and it's changing so quickly. So that's why you have us though to brief you and keep our fingers on the pulse so you don't have to.
exactly.
And in other news, Hollywood Reporter released a list of top 25 sports movies of all time, just in time for our podcast. It seems like it links up weirdly with Variety and Hollywood Reporter. So I don't know if they're bugging us or.
I think so. They're in on our chat somehow.
Yeah.
We added them accidentally to the signal chat.
Yeah. And the only football movie to make that out of 25 was OJ Made in America, which was a 5-part docu-series, so
Yeah,
that's cheating.
it's
And
it's absolutely cheating. Yeah, the list overall was, I mean, the top three was okay. Raging Bull, Hoop Dreams, and When We Were Kings, although interesting note, of course, two of those are documentaries. The rest of the list was kind of ridiculous. But as most lists are, except of course the one that we're going to do for you today.
yeah, but Challengers and Bring It On made the list, so
Yeah, when you've got yeah, when you've got like Bring It On back to back with Rocky, I don't think that's a serious list.
yeah, so take Hollywood Reporter with a large spoonful of salt. So, box office review.
All right, so in a big surprise, The Conjuring Last Rites, one of the I don't know how many sequels they've done now for this franchise, came in at a whopping $83 million on the weekend, which was about 25 more than even most optimistic people predicted. So obviously, people are looking for a good horror movie as the summer ends and we get into fall. It's now over 226 million worldwide, and that's on a $55 million budget. Like these things just continually make bank.
Yeah, I knew it would do well, and I said that as much last week when I said
Yeah.
because it was the only wide release that was available this week. But yeah, it exceeded expectations to the max.
Yeah, and once again, we've been saying it all summer. Warner Brothers strikes again. Just another great haul for them. Number two is a bit of a weird one, and that's Hamilton. Was had a theater release. Now this is the version that's been on Disney Plus for about 5 years. That was a recording of the stage production, but it did pretty well. People wanted to see it on the big screen. Came in at about $10 million. Weapons came in at third again. Warner Brothers horror, another 5.2 million. It's now over 250 million worldwide on a $38 million budget. So again, these things are just licenses to print money. And then four and five, respectively, pretty small hauls. Freakier Friday, 3.8 million, and Caught Stealing, 3.1 million. So yeah, that rounds out the top five for this week.
And this coming week we have Downton Abbey, the grand finale.
Ooh, I
Pretty
love
much,
Downton Abbey,
pretty much speaks for itself.
but without Maggie Smith. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then we have Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, I think is how you pronounce it. Infinity Castle. So it has multiple subtitles. It's an anime, and anime is fucking huge these days. So
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll.
Demon Slayers seem to be all the rage,
Yeah.
or hunters or whatever. So
Yeah. And then we have The Long Walk. It's a Stephen King adaptation, and this one looks fascinating. Especially, I don't know if you've seen this story, Martin, but there are certain theaters that have configured their seating by treadmill, and you have because it's about
okay.
like the premise is a bunch of people sign up and just walk, and if you fall into last place, you get shot and killed, and the last is just the last man
Uh,
standing or last person standing at the end of the story is the winner. And I don't know if they win money or whatever. Didn't
I would
get
think
that
so,
far
or
into it.
else why do you join this walk?
I don't know if it's post-apocalyptic and they get food or whatever. But yeah, but the point is it's interactive now because some theaters are just employing the plot into the actual theater experience. So if you walk on the treadmill as long as you can at a certain pace, and then if you can't walk anymore, they kick you out of the theater. So I think it's a I think it's an innovative and interesting marketing tactic
Wow,
that
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
hey,
and
I
people get a little exercise at the same time. Nothing wrong
yeah,
with
exactly. It's like I just can't imagine like, eating popcorn, drinking soda, like, oh no, you fell behind, you're out of
it. Yeah.
here.
We're like, oh, but I want to see the end.
Then we have Spinal Tap 2. Uh Not debuting to much fanfare, interestingly enough, even though it's one of the most beloved comedies of all time. So
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and a
that's
lot of the living original cast are back, so
mhm.
it should be a lot of fun.
And then lastly, we have the Toy Story 30th anniversary re-release, which I'm sure is going to do very well for those Pixar nostalgists like yours truly.
Yeah.
So
And for everybody, it just makes us all feel really old that it's the 30th anniversary of
no
freaking Toy
shit.
Story.
Yeah, so five wide releases, so a lot of competition this week.
Yeah. So now, yes, we're into football. Football season just started in the NFL this past week, and fantasy football season as well for all those out there who play. I had, instantly remembered why fantasy football can be so frustrating and so annoying when I went up against the guy in our 12-team league who had the most points. That kind of happens. So,
Oh yeah.
football, you love it, you hate it, but I think in the end we always come back because we love the game.
Yep. And then yeah, football movies have been around for over 100 years at this point. And Martin and I had never seen this movie, but it's important to note that Harry Lloyd's The Freshman, and we would discuss Harold Lloyd multiple times on this
Yeah.
podcast, both on Spotify and on YouTube.
Big,
And
big, yeah, big favorite of the show here.
yeah, silent movie star, probably right up there with Charlie Chaplin. I mean, Chaplin's in a league of his own, obviously, but yeah, Harold Lloyd came out with The Freshman in 1925. It was about him just trying to get on the football team to get girls, and tale as old as time. So before we get into the official top 10, we had some others receiving votes. So if you're looking to see these on the list, they will not be, but worth mentioning. We had the replacements, the program, We Are Marshall, and The Last Boy Scout. So Martin, you want to kick us off with number 10?
Sure. So number 10, we've got Brian's Song. This is a 1971 movie starring James Caan and Billy D. Williams, based upon true story. This was one of the ones that it's shockingly I'd never seen before, even though I knew the story. It's just one of these things that everybody's heard of. And actually a really short movie. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes long. And that's because it was actually originally an ABC movie of the week, which is kind of hard to believe that it's had this kind of lasting impact when it
Hmm.
was a TV movie of the week. And I think going and watching it now, the thing I found most interesting was the kind of mix of real footage with the filmed stuff with the actors. And they actually did a good job. Like it looks really good when they cut from real footage of the game to the actors on the sideline. It looks pretty seamless. Like for a 1971 movie, they did a great job. And I think it was also just a great idea because, what are they? Billy D. Williams plays Gale Sayers, and nobody runs like Gale Sayers did. Like, so trying to get an actor to do that just would have been a fool's errand. So I think it was actually a very smart move to use real game footage as well.
Yeah, and of course James Caan plays Brian Piccolo, and
Yeah.
they're teammates, and uh, Brian comes down with a terminal disease, and that's basically the plot. And it's always up there with like one of the few movies that can make tough guys cry.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
yeah, I think it was number 7 on Entertainment Weekly's like guy cry movies. and and yeah, because it's all about a bromance between, and
Yeah.
especially especially since this is in 1971 and it's a black player and a white player,
Yeah.
and that'll
Yeah.
be
From
a
their playing
theme.
days in the 60s. Yeah. And they were actually the first two black and white teammates to room together when they would
Yeah.
go on the road. And that, they got some grief from that, but it kind of bonded them as friends even more. And yeah, just an incredibly sad and touching story, but kind of inspiring in a way too. Just as you say, the bromance between these two guys.
Yeah, 100%. So then we're going to Little Giants. It's a 1994 movie. Uh, we're going from Pee Wee to Pro in this podcast. And I hadn't seen this in about 30 or so years. Never like went back and rewatched it. And I would have bet my bottom dollar, and I'm glad I didn't, that this was a Disney movie.
Yeah, oh yeah, it
It just
feels
has
so much like a Disney
it
movie.
has all the hallmarks, but it was a Warner Brothers flick. And so it's the classic underdog story about a bunch of reject kids, and including like, even that even in the early 90s, like black kids were ousted unless they were, full on like monster athletes. And there's even a girl on the Little Giants,
Yeah,
and that was very, very, very progressive for its time.
and she's one of the best players out there.
Yeah, Rick Moranis, Ed O'Neill, you can't really get more 90s than that. And they were both excellent in this, in their respective portrayals of two brothers that are exact opposites. But, Rick Moranis is shockingly the nerd brother, the nerdy brother. And Ed O'Neill's the consummate jock. And they're coaching, Rick Moranis is coaching the rejects. Ed O'Neill's coaching like like suited up like sponsored cowboys against like just the ragtag giants. And of course, spoiler alert, after completing the annexation of Puerto Rico, the Little Giants come out on top.
The annexation of Puerto Rico. Yeah, great made up play. Yeah, Ed O'Neill actually played football in college and then I guess
Mhm.
played a little bit in pro camp with the Steelers at one point. And he must have it in his contract that he's referred to as a former football player in almost every one of his roles because
Pretty
in
much.
Married with Children he was. I think in Modern Family he was like he used to be a football player in high school or something too. Like, and so it's just, yeah, I want this known that I used to play football. Rick Moranis clearly did not. Um, it's actually amazing going back and watching this. Rick Moranis was, I don't think you would ever have said he was a movie star,
Mm.
but he was in some big movies and he was huge in the 90s. And then he just walked away and just kind of left the biz and was content to kind of live his life. And that's very rare. You don't see that too often.
No, yeah, he just comes off as a really good guy because he's a
Yeah.
widower. He's a
Yeah.
widower, and he just took off because he wanted to raise his kids, and
Yep.
made enough money in the 80s and 90s to where he could live a comfortable life and just be actually a good man
Yeah.
instead of just a movie star. So
Yeah.
yeah, good for him.
All right, number eight, we've got Draft Day. This is a 2014 movie starring Kevin Costner, the late great Chadwick Boseman, Jennifer Garner, and then a bunch of cameos from real life football players. And this is a running theme, I think, throughout all these movies. I mean, even in Little Giants, football players love being in movies, it seems, because
Oh yeah.
almost all of these movies have cameos. I think there's the only exception, there may be only one or two exceptions on this entire list that didn't have actual football players in either cameos or in actual acting roles in these movies. Um, this is it's a really fun movie about the wheeling and dealing around drafts. It's obviously a bit ridiculous, like, and the fact that Kevin Costner as the GM, he pulls the rabbit out of his hat with some wheeling and dealing as the draft goes on. It doesn't really change the fact that he made some absolutely horrible moves to start the movie. So is he's not necessarily a great GM. He just kind of got a little lucky. But it's one of these movies, it's one of the very few that kind of looks at that is about a draft. And so it's always a fun one to kind of rewatch around draft time just because it kind of gets you in the mood. And yeah, it's just obviously a very important part of sports, an important part of football is the draft. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun one. And also looking at kind of scouting and what goes on behind the scenes. And there's a whole thing about the supposed top quarterback, and he's supposedly this can't miss prospect, but then they start learning a little bit more about him, and it's a bit more than what's just on the field and what goes on in the locker room and what do his teammates think of him and all that kind of stuff. So it's just an interesting angle on football movies. And even though it's kind of ridiculous, I think it's kind of a fun movie.
Okay, yeah, I've never been a fan of this movie, and
Okay.
it's probably strictly the fact that I've been following the NFL so closely, and it's my favorite sport, and just I've been a diehard fan since I was like 6 or 7, and just it's so ridiculous. This shit would never ever happen in real life. But in like when I take a step back, I think like for instance, the F1 movie that just came out had a lot of the same complaints for diehard F1 fans.
Right.
Like the so much of this shit is so unrealistic. And
Yeah.
then so after thinking about that, I was like, okay, I got to compartmentalize and just separate art from real life, which should be an easy thing for me. But as I was watching it the first time, this particular movie Draft Day, I was just like, oh, I was just rolling my eyes the entire goddamn time. But as I said, taking a step back, yeah, it is fun, it's entertaining, and it's kind of inclusive for people that aren't well versed in the back dealings and GM trades and all that kind of shit. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. I didn't include it in my list. You did, but that's my reason why. But it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Next up, we have Jerry Maguire, and that is a 1996. Basically, it's a rom-com dressed up like a sports movie, or vice versa. It's a
Yeah.
kind of a clever trick by Cameron Crowe to get everybody under the tent of this movie's like, yeah, you got obviously it's Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger, but got Cuba Gooding Jr. as the diva wide receiver, and Jay Moore as the dick agent, and again cameos by the likes of Drew Bledsoe who was a huge name in the early 2000s, and just full of timeless quotes. Chicks love it. Men are allowed to see it because there's football. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And Cuba Gooding Jr. actually won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role as this kind of selfish wide receiver who just wants the money. And it's also probably the first movie that I can really think of that went behind the scenes to talk about what agents do and
Hmm.
how important they are to the whole process of football and sports in general. And that's even more true now. I mean, the power that some agents have in some of these sports, especially football and basketball and hockey. It's just ridiculous. And this was kind of the movie that sort of exposed to the world what is it exactly that a sports agent does? Taking some liberties, of course, some dramatic license, but it's kind of the first movie that I can think of that actually went there and talked about that subject. Um,
And Martin, I just have to say that you complete me. The podcast just wouldn't be the same if I was talking to myself.
All right. And then coming in at number six, we've got Friday Night Lights. So this is the 2004 movie starring Billy Bob Thornton, Derek Luke, Lucas Black, a bunch of others. This might be one of the exceptions. I don't remember there being any star cameos in this one. It's directed and co-written by Peter Berg, and it also spawned a probably more popular and even maybe even better five-season series that started in 2006 that was also created by Peter Berg. Um, and it's based on a true story or loosely based on a true story. I'm not sure exactly how many of the details are correct about a West Texas high school football team where that is the religion of the small town in West Texas, Odessa, Texas. And that is true for a lot of places in kind of small town middle America, how important high school football is. And this movie really brought that out. And it over dramatized everything. The music was fantastic for doing
Yeah.
that by this instrumental group called Explosions in the Sky, who also ended up doing the music for the series as well. And it adds so much to it. I love our Explosions in the Sky. They can make anything seem dramatic. Um, and interestingly, Connie Britton, I had forgotten this until I went and re-watched this. Connie Britton is in this again as the coach's wife.
Oh,
But she's not really a character. She's just the wife. Like she barely has any speaking parts or anything. So kudos to Peter Berg for realizing that she could bring a lot more and bring her back with a different name, but as the coach's wife in the series where she became, when we went through some of our favorite TV characters, one of my favorite TV characters of the last 25 years.
yeah, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And again, spoiler alert, I do love that it's one of the very few sports movies where they don't win at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like when we were talking about basketball movies and Coach Carter came up, and I love movies where they don't get what they want, but they get what they need, which is the camaraderie and the life lessons that come along with just being part of a team and just getting so close, but just missing out on the state championship in this case.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's always surprising because you think these are just going to be paint by numbers, underdogs come together in the end and win the big game, and that certainly is the case with some of the movies we'll be talking about after this. But
Yeah.
I always liked Friday Night Lights for that fact that they
Yeah.
did they still lost, but they won in spirit.
Exactly. Yeah. And it showed the character or built the character of the players along the way. And that was, as you say, actually the most important part.
Yep. So with that, it's time for a drink break.
Woo.
You want to go first?
Sure. So we decided we were going to do drinks based upon our favorite NFL teams. And I have no idea what there is, so I just looked up Seahawks themed drinks, and the one I came up with is called a Seahawks Breeze cocktail, and it is basically vodka, limoncello, blue curacao, and club soda. So we'll see how this turns out. I'm gonna have to mix this all up. So why don't you talk about what your drink is?
Sure
Also, I
thing.
should mention, even though we're talking football, I'm off after this to my league softball game. So I hope I don't get too tagged here.
Hey, it might be helpful. The baseball players in the 20s used to get sauced all the time.
That
Just
is true.
to go out and hit dingers.
Yeah. If I get a big home run, I'll let you know next week.
All right, so mine's called Packer Punch, and pretty simple, except I had to cut and peel a kiwi, and those are I forgot how much of a bitch those were to peel. So it's ginger ale, vodka, and apple pucker for a little greenish hue there. And then you just toss in a kiwi after that. And fun fact, while you're still gathering your ingredients, apple pucker was the first alcoholic drink I ever drank on purpose. I think when I was 9 or 10, I accidentally took a sip of beer thinking it was water and spat it all over the place. It was the nastiest thing I ever tasted. But
I don't think I know what is this apple pucker thing.
yeah, it's just a apple liqueur.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I took 4 shots of apple pucker out of my friend's dad's liquor cabinet when I was about 15 or so, and I was tanked. And there's not a high alcohol contact at all, but my brain and liver wasn't as used to it at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so gonna do about 5-6 ounces of ginger ale, uh 3 ounces of vodka, or sorry, 2 ounces of vodka and 2 ounces of apple pucker. And what do you got going on there?
So my mix is an ounce and a half of vodka, half an ounce of limoncello, half an ounce of blue curacao, and then 2 ounces of soda.
Okay.
So I'm actually gonna put it in a shaker here, mix it up.
And then I'm just putting my kiwi in there, floating that on top.
And let's see how this turns out. It should, so theoretically, this should give a nice sort of ocean type color for the Seahawks. So that's why it is a Seahawks breeze cocktail. Yeah, not too bad.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, pretty bright ocean, but probably don't find that actually that color of ocean in the Pacific Northwest. But
No, that's much more Caribbean.
yeah, exactly. The Caribbean Seahawks. But here we go.
So yeah, this is the first time we've each discovered these drinks. I've never had Packer Punch before, so
Yeah,
let's find out.
that's not bad. Mine's pretty sweet. Um, like I think I'd try to find a way to cut down on the sweetness when you get the blue curacao and the limoncello. That ends up being fairly sweet, but yeah, not a terrible drink.
Yeah,
You're
interestingly,
probably not going to sit there and drink a whole bunch of these while watching a football game. That might just make you sick, but it's fun for a change.
yeah, interestingly, I ran into the same problem. I think it'd be better with soda water instead of ginger ale. Cut down,
Okay.
cut down the sweetness a little bit. Not bad though.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Now we have the Waterboy.
Woo.
Adam Sandler making it on the list, and especially for me, I was 10 years old when this came out. This is just peak Adam Sandler. Like,
Yeah.
um, his shit really doesn't hold up a lot. Um, and he just pumps out movies that he gets to take vacation on with his friends, and
Yeah.
not hating on him whatsoever.
No, 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 no.
It's the ultimate job in entertainment. Like, oh yeah, just call up Rob Schneider, David Spade and Co. Let's go just fuck around for 3 weeks in Hawaii and make another fucking grown ups or whatever.
Yeah,
But this actually holds up. I watched this
I agree.
and God, how good is Kathy Bates?
Amazing. We're playing that foosball.
Between her and Henry Winkler,
Yeah.
they are just so fucking hilarious. And Adam Sandler is almost secondary to those two. And okay, I guess for those who haven't seen it, Adam Sandler plays a show.
Like 30-year-old
Uh,
or something.
well, very mentally challenged 30-year-old water boy at a no-name school in Louisiana, raised by his mom, Kathy Bates, and out in the bayou in a shack where they eat squirrels on the grill and shit like that. And but
Snakes and
he
tiny alligators. And
where he's able to harness all the bullying and anger that he suffered over the years in courtesy of the Big Show, by the way,
yes, that's right.
aka Captain Insano, the pro wrestler, and and harness that anger into becoming one of the college football's best linebackers, and just visualizing and attacking and just you know taking all that bullying and just crushing people on the football field. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically the story. But it I was surprised how much I was laughing watching it back.
Yeah, I had the exact same notes written down that this movie still makes me laugh off after all these years. And yeah, a lot of it's Kathy Bates, a lot of it's Henry Winkler. Like, what part of the snake would you say this is? Well, snakes don't really have parts, but I'd say it was his knee. Just like totally random lines like that. It's just such a funny movie. And yeah, in addition to, so there's the usual Sandler cast members and then Kathy Bates and Henry Winkler. And also in 90s standout Feruza Balk, who,
Mm.
is kind of, I don't know what she's doing these days, but in the 90s, she was in tons of things. And she plays Bobby Boucher's criminal-minded girlfriend. And she's really funny too. It's hilarious and charming at the same time. And so it's definitely one of the best football movies I think ever.
Yeah, I just remember this, but one of my buddies got or his parents got us a limo for our fifth grade graduation, and it was one of those that had a VCR in it, which is like
Oh,
so cutting edge at the
that's
time.
pretty
So
fancy. Yeah.
we had the limo driver drop us off at Blockbuster, again, another relic from the 90s, and we rented the Waterboy and just rode around town watching that and eating Doritos. It was a great time.
Nice. Sounds like a good grad. All right, we got another 90s movie coming up next. At number four, we've got Varsity Blues. This is a 1999 movie starring James Van Der Beek, who was in the middle of his Dawson's Creek fame at the time. John Voight, Paul Walker, Amy Smart, Ali Larder, and Jesse Plemons, actually, who went on to be in the Friday Night Lights series. Like 7 years later. So he was still playing a high school kid 7 years later, but that's all right. And obviously now is just this amazing character actor. Um, and this movie is basically it's all about the ridiculous pressure being put onto high school football players by anyone and everyone with their own agendas, especially and including those the players' parents. I don't want your life.
One of the best worst line deliveries of all fucking time.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but it's just a great snapshot into kind of what, an exaggerated version of what high school pressure performance sports were all about back in the 90s.
Yeah, it's also completely overblown and outrageous, and
Yeah.
it's and this it's watching this one back. I really can't tell if they were trying to make a comedy or not. I'm not giving the filmmakers enough credit to think that
Yeah.
they're that clever, but
Yeah.
God, is it so unintentionally funny?
It is hilarious. Yeah, I agree. I'm not entirely sure if that was the plan or not. And it's also got like all this like 90s rock stuff, like the high school kids get dragged out to or got dragged out. They go to a strip club and find one of their teachers is stripping and stuff like come. It's so absurd, but just so typically late 90s stuff. And then of course, the famous Ali Larter whip cream bikini scene, which became famous for anybody growing up with male hormones for a while, for about a decade there. Um, uh, Side note on Ali Larter, she is one of these actresses and people who just keeps getting more and more beautiful, like as she ages.
Oh, yeah, I
Have you
agree.
seen her
Yeah.
lately? She's absolutely stunning still,
Yeah.
which is yeah. So good on Ali
Yeah,
Larter.
because yeah, in that particular movie, I always thought like they try to make Amy Smart all dumpy just because she
Yeah,
wore like normal clothes, and Ali Larter
yeah,
was always either in a whipped cream bikini or a cheerleader outfit. But yeah, I thought Amy Smart was just blew Ali Larter out of the water. But
yeah, yeah.
anyway, that's swapped these days. But yeah, so yeah, some of the dialogue just so stupid, and John Voight, he gave it his all, but man, that part was just so one dimensional. It just
Yeah.
so unrealistic, and
His eyes bugging out of his head as he's screaming at the players and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. But one thing I noticed, I've seen this movie at least a half dozen times, but watching it back this time and actually studying it, that little scene where Mox buys the condoms in the convenience store would make like the craziest condom commercial ever. And like, and his little brother's there behind it because it plays like as a vignette. Like you don't need that scene in there. That could have been completely cut,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but it's like a minute and a half, like perfect commercial length, and the little brother even like they mock Allah, and this is clearly before 9/11, and that was nobody knew what or who Allah was in the Western world. So,
Definitely some things do not stand up with this movie, that's for sure.
yeah, but yeah, it was an MTV movie that has to be said and remembered because, like you said, the soundtrack was just so like. Okay, we got to get the Foo Fighters in there. We got to get the Van Halen in there. You get like, yeah, to get like all the hits of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun movie. This is actually the only one of the ones that I had seen that I didn't get a chance to go back and watch, but that's because I haven't seen it probably in 10 years, but I like you, I'd seen it multiple times. So in terms of needing to watch it, fell down to the bottom of my list.
All right, next up, we're flipping genres, or are we? Like again, can't tell what Varsity Blues genre was, but
Yeah,
this one
I'd
is
say so. I'd say we're flipping genres.
this one is certainly a drama, and that is, of course, Rudy. Uh,
Rudy, Rudy, Rudy,
it's the
Rudy.
almost the entirely fictional account of one Rudy Rudiger, played by Sean Astin in his early days, pre Samwise Gamgee, and it's about just this scrawny, undersized underdog. I mean, it's along with Rocky, it's like the number one underdog story in sports movies, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, he has no business playing football, but he just loves the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, and his one goal in life is just to play for the Fighting Irish. So, he's the hardest worker, the biggest heart, yada yada, all the underdog stuff against the bigger, the blue chip players, and he works his way under the practice squad, and eventually plays, I think, three plays at the very end
Yeah.
for the
Gets a
Irish
sack.
and gets a sack. And uh, yeah, very inspiring. Soundtrack's amazing, and just a hallmark of sports movies and especially football movies.
Yeah, this is almost certainly the most uplifting of the movies that we're talking about here today, and certainly the one that focuses most purely on the love of the game. It's
Mm.
just all about that. There's just this pure love of football. Like he's out there. There's no guarantee he's ever going to play. And he's there every practice just to make the team better and getting his ass kicked and getting pushed around. But because of that, at practice after practice, gaining the respect of all his teammates and his friends and the people around him. A few other notes about this one. This one also has Vince Vaughn and a young Vince Vaughn and John Favreau, and this is actually where they met, was on the set of this movie. And of course, those two guys went on to become good friends and make lots of movies together. And it was written also by a guy named Angelo Rizzo, however you pronounce it, who must have the most specific credit list I've ever seen in my life on IMDb. He's got 6 film credits, and every single one of those is an uplifting sports movie,
Oh,
including Hoosiers. He also wrote Hoosiers and The Game of Their Lives. And all the other three too. All they are just uplifting sports movies. That is his niche. He's found it, and that's where he's just sticking to it. It's pretty amazing, actually. You
yeah, good for
rarely
him.
find writers that are, or directors or anybody that are that specific in their niche.
Yeah, yeah, I did not know that. That's wild.
All right. Coming in at number 2, we've got Any Given Sunday, which is a 1999 Oliver Stone film. Stone also has an acting role in this movie as like an announcer, which is weird. It stars Al Pacino, Dennis Quaid, Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J, James Woods, Matthew Modine, and a whole shitload of football stars, including Jim Brown and Lawrence Taylor, possibly like the best offensive and defensive football players of all time,
Oh yeah,
arguably. Um, and I really like that we have this back to back with Rudy because it's basically the polar opposite.
yeah.
This is the most anti football movie on our list, or at least the most critical of what professional football has become.
Okay, yeah.
And it's interesting that this came out in 1999, the same year as Varsity Blues. People were really down on football in 1999. Damn. But this is all just about like the selfishness of professional football and basically how this team sport has been destroyed by everybody looking out for themselves. And I think it's still, obviously it's a little too down on football for my liking because I enjoy football, but it's still relevant, a lot of it. My Seahawks lost this past week because of two boneheaded, selfish plays by a defensive back. But but I think the only thing that doesn't really stand up is some of the health and drug stuff. Uh, that's one area where obviously there's still stuff that goes on, but football has really tried to at least give the veneer of trying to make it seem like they care about the health of their
Yeah.
players. Whereas this one really goes into like these guys are just about to die, and the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, you're good to go. Get back out there on the field." So it is very negative, but it's also like Al Pacino in his like full Al Pacino
Yeah.
mode at times, but also like really depressed Al Pacino. He spends half the time at a bar just getting drunk and everything because he's so depressed with where his life's at. It's
Just trying to connect with a hooker,
yeah,
just
yeah, exactly. Yeah, played by again sort of 90s standout from what was her name? Jesse from Saved by the Bell. What was Elizabeth Berkley
Oh yeah,
of
okay.
Showgirls fame. Um, and it also famously has probably one of the best or slash most famous sports pump up speeches of all time by
Mm,
Al Pacino before the final game.
yeah. Yeah. Again, been a football fan since I was a little kid, and I was so hyped for this movie in '99. And I've always just been mildly disappointed by it. Not an Oliver Stone fan overall, just in
Yeah.
general. That should be said. But yeah, this was just in true Oliver Stone fashion, he takes a message and just bashes you over the head with it over and over and over again. So, it's definitely not one of my favorite football movies, but uh, it's funny because after opening weekend, this is still in the era of monoculture where everybody would see the same thing. And so I was at the bus stop the next day, and all anybody could talk about was the guy's eye popping out on the field. And, we're 10, 11 years old. So, of course, that's our
Right, of course.
takeaway.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Al Pacino and is just turning up to 11, of course. And yeah, a lot of, again, unrealistic shit that would never actually happen in the real NFL, but still still worthy of this list for sure. And yeah, Jamie Foxx, probably, I think this is his breakout movie because he
I
was
think
he
so.
was
Yeah.
he was still famous from in Living Color and doing his
Yeah.
own the Jamie Foxx show. So he was definitely already kind of a household name. But then this was his pivot, and he is, just got to say, he's one of the most talented people on planet Earth.
He really is. Yeah, like he can do comedy, he can do drama like he does in this.
He
He
can
can
sing. He can
sing.
act.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a really talented dude. Um, no, I think this is definitely a worthy inclusion on the list, and obviously we have it really high because I think it is a very good movie. It's just not necessarily, especially on rewatch, it's just not necessarily an enjoyable movie.
Okay, yeah,
Especially if you like football, because it is just so down on everything, and every one of the characters is kind of despicable in some
yeah.
way, or at least depressing. And it's just, yeah, it's a very tough watch, but I do still think it's a good, well-made movie. And I'm like you, I'm not a huge Oliver Stone fan overall.
Oh yeah, and Lawrence Taylor also made a quick cameo in The Waterboy, so he was all over the place.
That's right, he did. Yes. Good old LT.
So, if you're even remotely familiar with football movies and this genre, then you know what number one's going to be, and that is, of course, Remember the Titans. As another biographical sports drama. Again, a lot of creative license taken,
Yeah.
but Denzel Washington is the black coach in 1971 Alexandria, Virginia, and you don't get much more racist than that society at that time. So it was the age of integration, and black students busing into white schools, and all the upheaval that happened in the late 60s and early 70s. And another great ensemble cast,
Yeah.
Will Patton of Armageddon fame a couple of years before, and Donald Faison, Ethan Suplee, who is unrecognizable these days. If you've seen pictures of him, he's lost about 300 pounds. Nicole Ari Parker, very young Hayden Panettiere,
Yeah.
Kate Bosworth, Ryan Gosling, and
Young Ryan Gosling. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, just great cast all the way around.
Wood Harris, otherwise known as Avon Barksdale, as
Yep.
well. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of the greatest, most uplifting sports films, football films, and just such a great message. And today's kids would do well to actually sit down and watch this movie and take in that message, because it seems like we're going backwards, and that's very unfortunate. And again, this is another one that came out at the perfect time for me because I was playing middle school football and rec league on the side at that point. By the way, for the viewing audience, that's my middle school letter jacket hanging up behind me.
Love it.
Uh, and I think I think most of the gross of this movie came from just football teams as a whole going to see it, because
Mm.
every coach, every player on another team I know just got like bulk deals on bringing 50 kids and a couple parents and coaches to the theater to sit down and watch this movie. And obviously, at this point, this was in the mid this is in the early aughts, and integration it was no longer a problem. But there's still racial divides, cultural divides among black and white, and all that, and just bringing together all these people. And so that's basically the plot, and then they go on and win the state championship, and proving that blacks and whites can work together.
Yeah, so it's got some of the same themes as the one we started with, Brian's song, but kind of amped up a million times with an incredible cast of characters. And I think it's a great one for us to end on. And one of the reasons that makes the top of our list is that it's about football's ability and sports in general, football's ability to transcend the game
Hmm.
and kind of have an impact on the wider world. And like a lot of the other movies on the list had elements of that, but this is the one that encapsulates it best. And it's probably, like I said, Rudy was the most uplifting. This is probably the most hopeful football movie because of it, because it's not just about football and these guys, coming together to win a game. It's about these guys coming together to learn something about life and learning how to work together, not just as a football team, but how people need to come together in the broader society. And that particularly resonates this week, given what we talked about at the top of the show. And I think, yeah, it's just such a well-made movie overall. Yes, obviously there's dramatic license taken here and there to amp up the sentimentality, but who cares? I'm all
Yeah.
for it. I'm all for it. We need more of that stuff every now and then.
Yeah, and I have I like to inject personal anecdotes whenever I can. And actually, one of my best friend's dads played against TC Williams in that state championship.
No way. Wow,
Yes,
that's
so
amazing.
yeah, so shout out to Mr. Rick. And, but one of the funny
And
things
and,
that
and did he know the story of the team at the time? Like, did he know that this was a newly integrated team and all that kind of stuff? Was
well,
that
yeah,
well known in the general public at the time, or?
yeah, it was. I mean, because obviously you look at the team and you see there's black people on the
Right,
team,
right,
so
right, right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
it's
And I guess
pretty,
at that time that would have been something rare. You're right.
so
Yeah, fair
it's
enough.
pretty obvious. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
okay.
um so one of the inaccuracies is that they were the only integrated school, and
Right,
while my,
right.
my friend's dad wasn't in it, he was an all white school, but yeah, it was definitely noticeable and definitely made news. But the funny thing is my friend's dad's team, they got their ass kicked. It was nowhere. It didn't come anywhere near down to the final play. It's there was no shotgun. There was no. Oh my God! It looks like the New York Jets.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like I forget what the final score was, but yeah, they didn't stand a chance.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Got to make things a little more dramatic at the end
For
of a
sure, for sure.
Hollywood there.
But yeah, I always thought that was cool because he's a
That's very cool.
yeah, my friend's dad was like a really good defensive end. He had the trophy case, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, shout out to Jasper and your dad, Mr. Rick. Oh, great soundtrack too, by the way.
Yes.
Late '60s, early '70s.
Yeah, a lot
Great,
of great Motown and stuff. And yeah,
great CCR. Yeah,
yeah,
the whole shebang. Yep.
yeah.
All right, so yeah, we hope you enjoyed that one. Again, been kind of a run and gun week for us, but the summer's finally winding down. But the Emmys are this Sunday, and we will be bringing our thoughts on the broadcast, some recap, and Martin. Yeah, he's been attending some Toronto International Film Festival movies, so we're gonna have Martin's TIFF corner for you next week as well, where I just sit there and nod and uh,
Yeah, yeah. I've seen
ve-
three movies so far. All the celebrity sightings around town and everything. It's all very exciting. I've seen three movies so far. I'm going to see three more, and yeah, we'll talk about them, see if we think any of them have a chance of making it into the Oscar contention, into Oscar contention. Certainly, one of them that I've already seen probably will be mentioned and get some nominations. So we'll see. Well, it'll be fun to talk about.
Yep. And the Packers kick off in 4 minutes, so we perfect time.
Good timing. And I've got to go play softball. All right.
All right, we'll see you guys next week on the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast.
Bye, everyone.